You ever had anybody leave the meeting?
Nope. Certainly not by session 8. um, but no, never. Um, very few people ever see these recordings. It's really just me, and I guess whoever misses a particular class, if they want. Um, okay, so tonight I thought we'd start with something. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to mute everybody.
Oh, wow.
Uh, so I thought we'd start tonight with a slightly different meditation. This is one that my friend Jeff Warren made up. That's really interesting. He calls it the Caring Alien Awareness Meditation, right? And the idea is that imagine that there's this alien awareness floating through space, and it's never experienced anything, any sensations. It's just floating through space. But it's a kind-hearted awareness, and it's been told that there's this body, this body mind, if you will, this person on planet Earth who's offered to allow this caring alien awareness to occupy it and to sense everything that the body mind senses. So that's, our five senses, our thoughts, our emotions. So this caring alien awareness is approaching Earth and very much looking forward to having this experience of having sensations, of having something to be aware of, other than the vastness of space. And so, and this, because this is a caring alien awareness, they really care. They don't they care about the body mind that they're going to inhabit. And as you can imagine, the body mind that they're going to inhabit is you. So I would ask you to find a nice, comfortable position where you can be relaxed and yet alert. And, sit with your spine centered, your heart open, and prepare for this caring alien awareness to enter your body mind. So with the sound of the bell, the caring alien awareness will enter your body mind. And so now you're this caring alien awareness, and you're in this body mind just for a short time. And so you've never experienced this before. Everything is new for you. Whatever sensations you're experiencing now, noticing the sensations of the body and breathing. Whatever other sensations there are, sound, mental talk, mental images, whatever sensations there are, you've never experienced these before. And whatever's going on, it's not you, it's this body mind. And so you don't have to worry about whatever's going on. It's just this incredible sensory experience that you've never had. And you want to be careful as you look around because you care about this body mind. You don't want to do anything to hurt it. And you really don't know what, like how it works. It's like, oh, I'm experiencing this body. So just feel free to explore around the body. You've never had hands before. What does that feel like? You've never experienced breathing before. It's all new. You've never experienced hearing before. Sound. And perhaps there are thoughts, mental talk, or mental images. And you've never experienced those before. You've never had a thought. And as you're experiencing all this, perhaps there's a sense of gratitude that this body mind is allowing you to experience all these things. Just noticing what it's like to be this caring alien awareness. And for a short time gets to experience this whole sensorium, this wondrous show. It's so interesting. And whatever thoughts might be there, that perhaps thoughts like, am I doing this right? Recognize that if you're hearing a thought, it's not you. You're the alien awareness. The thoughts are coming from the body mind. They're not you. So they're no problem. They're just interesting. You're just sitting back and experiencing it all, knowing that none of it is you. It's just this body mind, this amazing body mind. So much more interesting than the emptiness of space. You've never had a body. You've never had a mind. What's it like to be this caring alien awareness? That's inhabiting this body mind. Perhaps this caring alien awareness is thinking or feeling, I guess, because it doesn't really think. It's just this sense of gratitude and kindness, wanting this body mind to be happy and not to suffer. Wanting all body minds to be happy and not to suffer. And as this awareness is about to depart the body-mind and head back into space. Feelings of gratitude and love for this body-mind. Thank you. Thank you for these experiences. All of these experiences. Thank you. And now the alien awareness has left. And you can open your eyes. And here we are. We get so much time to experience this body-mind. We're so lucky. So if you want to move, feel free to move, stretch. Bring kindness to this body. So I'd love to hear what that experience was like for you. Whatever you want to share. It was weird, wonderful, awful, confusing, enlightening.
To me, it made perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good exercise to see myself through a different, through an imaginary different perception.
Mm-hmm. Was it at all similar to asking who notices?
Yeah. It's almost the same thing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I find sometimes it, like this simulation kind of helps to disidentify, to really draw that line between the subject and the object, between the awareness and the experience. Mark, and you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I found it much more effective than the who asks, actually, at least in this one session.
Mm-hmm. So when you say more effective, what did you notice?
Of being kind of one step back and looking at what was going on and not, I guess disassociating has negative connotations generally, but like not, really associating with those thoughts and stream consciousness.
Yeah, yeah.
I just found that metaphor or image really effective.
Mm-hmm.
And much more so than the who notices, because it had a more concrete form.
Yeah,
and, yeah. I have an active imagination, so I think that helps me in this case where I've got.
I would generally call that like disidentification, or not identifying with, the thoughts, the emotions, whatever's going on. Yeah. Anyone else? Did people generally, maybe show of hands, find that was that sense of being the awareness was enhanced with that technique or with that meditation? Right? No? Yeah, Sarah's got the thumbs up. Linda, not so much. Philip's got his hand up. Yeah.
No, it was my experience when you asked to, to think about an alien that's never experienced. I kept feeling bad for that alien having to experience what was going on in my head.
Care to share what was going on in your head? I mean, you don't have to. it wasn't a beautiful, wonderful place.
Well, my holiday is over and I'm headed home tomorrow, so there's lots on my mind.
Yes. And do you think this alien awareness would appreciate that experience?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess so. You know, when you put it that way and I think about it, absolutely.
Mhm.
Interesting. Thank you.
I love during the meditation when you said, the alien finds it interesting, because it's not, that's all he finds it interesting. That really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Without judgment, there's no judgment, it's just interesting.
Mhm. Okay. So if anybody's interested, Jeff's leading of that meditation on the resources sheet for the course, I've got the link to him leading that meditation. And the one he leads is a little longer. So I think it's brilliant. When I first did that meditation, I found like that sense of being the awareness was so clear. It really, and even just doing it tonight, I had the idea of I kept thinking to myself, boy, whoever this body mind is, they're really neurotic. So interesting. But it doesn't bother me because I was the alien awareness. Okay, so home practice. How was your final week of home practice? So we had the last thing I'll ever do exercise. We had the aimlessness reading / practice, and of course the resolution, the small stuff. So yeah, Jason and Kelly, if you need to turn off your video, please do, if you find that's helpful, which it often is. So, and the, working with the small stuff and just generally working with relax, release, lean back is, and, noticing resistance, relax, release, lean back is kind of, whatever you notice this week and working with that is great. It's a great time for you to get clarity if there are any questions around that, or to share whatever happened with that. So anyone want to ask a question or share what's happened with their practice this week?
I'll just share an amusing little impersonal thing, which is when I tried to tell my husband Nick about the last thing you'll do, and having death as your friend. He was not impressed. Sometimes he's very Italian. He's like, don't talk about that. And whereas I found the section in the book is like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, life is a loner, but it was actually interesting how intense his reaction was against it. So, and I guess because as a child there was death in my life, and so I've always known the other shoe can drop at any time. So ever since I was a child, I always knew that. So so it was interesting, a surprise to me actually, how when I would try to talk about it, it's like it wasn't good. And for me, I find it actually sort of liberating, but I continue the small stuff. I like some things I see a big difference, and other things moments of centered consciousness, not so much. But the relax, release, lean back, I found that actually is really an interesting pivotal tool. Like the idea of relaxing and leaning back instead of getting freaked out by something, I've actually found that really useful.
Mhm.
And it helps, and it's actually shocking because when I do that, I suddenly feel more present in my chest, which is normally sort of braced. And when I can relax, it's amazing how that your sense of, it's like my sense of presence is actually really physical. Like, you think it's something you do with your head, but it's not something to do with your head. I've always thought mindfulness was something you do with your mind, and it's not. I actually hate that word. I think it's not a very useful word because it redirects you here and not here. So
Mhm.
so I'd say I did, a quarter of my homework. And then similar to the dog ate my homework, about halfway through the week, I spilled tea on my notebook and my book, and I put it somewhere to press it and dry it, and then I couldn't find it. I only found my notebook like at 5 o'clock tonight. So that's my home practice,
Mhm. Yeah,
medium, but interesting.
right. And some people do call mindfulness heartfulness. I've heard a number of people say they prefer that term, but
Hmm. I've actually found that phrase seed of awareness really interesting because it almost puts it to a physical place, like
mhm.
similar to Twin, my Dharma teacher. She has been talking the last year about your root, like really rooting in your bones, like your sitting bones, like your physical root, and the seed of awareness I found really useful because it's almost like it's in the bottom of my bones. It's not in my head and my emotions and my activity, and so I found that image really useful, and I think maybe that's why the alien one didn't. Maybe now I'm too personally identified with my seat of awareness. I don't know. So the alien one, it was just like, and I'm super tired, so I was like, But anyways, the phrase seat of awareness, I have actually found that really grounding and a focusing idea. Like if I'm scattered during the day, I'll go, oh yeah, where's my seat of awareness? It's like it's either in my feet or my pelvic area, depending whether I'm sitting or standing, and it's actually kind of useful.
Mhm.
So yeah, good tool.
Mhm. Great, thanks, Linda. So I did want to just go over a couple of things from the relax, release, lean back handout. You don't need to have it or anything. This is just my notes. But just some things that in our classes and in talking with people, I wanted to highlight. So one is that the relax, release, lean back, it doesn't need to be in that order, right? Maybe the first thing you do is ask who notices. The first thing you do is lean back into that seat of awareness. That can sometimes I'll do it that way, and I know a number of people have said that they prefer to do it that way. And for me, it's just it's good to experiment. Um, and different times I'll put one or the other. I mean, sometimes it starts with noticing the pull of the thoughts, and the first thing is to release, right? First thing is saying, oh, I'm not, silly mind, right? Silly mind. I don't need to go there. I don't need to figure that out. I can just stop paying attention to whatever you're saying. Stop thinking that I have to engage, that I have to answer the question that you're asking. Stop finding you interesting. Wanting to go into the content, and often that brings up, oh, just notice who notices, right? Rather than go into the content, ask who notices that this is going on. And then the relax often for me is the last one, because it's like at that point I'm in the seat of awareness. I've kind of said I'm not interested in you thoughts, and then just noticing resistance and relaxing. So that's one thing. Have people, like anybody here, find that they like to do it, in different order than relax, release, lean back, or different, that they're, the point where you recognize that there's a disturbance, it may be, it may point to wherever you notice the disturbance and notice the resistance, it may point you to release, it may point you to lean back, it may point you to relax. If that makes sense. I hope I'm not just confusing people. So that's one thing. I've noticed also for myself, sometimes now I'll say silly personal mind instead of silly mind, just to really emphasize that. It's not my whole mind that's silly, it's the personal mind that's silly. And just to reinforce that sense of disidentification, that sense of this is not the part of me that I want to identify with. Philip, is this a new hand that's up? Or is that an old hand that's up? I'm not sure.
I just wanted to respond to the home practice, but I can wait.
Oh, go ahead.
When you asked about, should I go ahead?
Sure.
Yeah, so I found myself, really thinking about, if this was my last week on earth, what would I do? And I don't think I do anything that I'm not already doing. I think I just keep doing what I'm doing. And what I've been thinking about a lot is the notion of abundance, because it came up in something else that another group that I'm working with. So that the topic was abundance, and for me, abundance was not in having and not in doing, but in being.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of abundance that I'm, experiencing or want to experience right now. Is that whatever it is that I'm doing, I want to be abundantly present.
Yes.
And it doesn't really matter what I'm doing.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And I wonder, Mickey talked about asking, if this is your last week, imagine this is your last week, what would you do? And, that not necessarily what you would do, but how you would do it, right? The depth of the experience, the appreciation for the experience. And I wonder if you noticed any change in that when you were practicing, if this was my last week.
I imagine it would be everything would be more intense and more poignant, knowing that. I mean, there would be sadness, and there would be, a sense of something.
I'm just curious, and I don't want to put you on the spot exactly, but like, was this something that you just, you did an exercise of imagining if it was your last week, or was this something that you did, like, while you're doing the dishes, imagining it's your last week of doing the dishes, or while you're doing this, imagining it's your last week of doing that?
All of that, and just feeling gratitude for having had the time that I have had. Mm-hmm. And also obviously sadness for, not to have it again, but focusing more just on being here now. Yeah. And, until it's over.
Yeah. And I've noticed when I've practiced it sometimes that I have this sense of sadness, this sense of, that I haven't lived as deeply as I would have liked, that I hadn't, taken advantage of the time times that I've had in the past, as much as I could have if I had this perspective that I have now back then. Yeah.
I'm hoping that I'll have no regret. I mean, my life has been fraught with, it's been fraught, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And that, I accept it. I just accept that that's what my life has been. And I'm here now at this particular phase of my life. I'm very grateful for this particular phase of my life. There's fear too, I have to admit. There's definitely fear. I'm not afraid of being dead. I'm just afraid of dying, because I don't know how it's going to happen, right? And it could be. I have no qualms about being dead, but the dying itself might be challenging. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It might not. I mean, maybe an airplane would just drop on my head. So who knows? So,
One can only hope.
sort of, yes, exactly.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. The best way is like quick and sudden, and it's gone, it's over. Maybe, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's what it is.
Yeah, yeah, none of us have any choice really.
No.
Okay, thanks, Philip. One other thing I wanted to mention, when you ask who notices, or what is having this experience, or anything like that, to move your perspective into the seat of awareness, many people have said that the mind wants to answer, right? That they're, what's the answer? What's the answer? And there's no answer, and don't even try to answer, right? Like the mind may automatically try to answer, but the point of the exercise is just to ask who notices, and then notice what happens. Notice if that shifts your perspective at all. Again, without trying to make anything happen, right? We don't want to be attached to a certain outcome. You just ask who notices, and then watch what happens. So, is that, Jason or Kelly? You have your hand up?
Hi. Hopefully, I know our internet is really weak. Just with what the conversation was there, I'm not sure that the airplane falling on Philip's head would actually be the gift. Wouldn't the gift be knowing that you're going to die? Right? Then we would actually be able to live that last moment.
Yeah, and I think we all do know that. Even if if we're like Linda's husband, we might, try and bury that and never think about it. But I think we all know that. So again, it's, do you find, Jason, that like that helps you to like recognizing that, remembering that helps to enrich your experience?
For sure. And even enrich it even more than like I used to say, whenever remember I get to do this, right? Like I don't really have to do this. I get to do this right now, but this is the last thing I'm going to do, enriches it even more.
Yeah.
This is the last thing I get to do. All right. Thank you.
Mm. So did you practice that this last week, or is that from before? Or?
Something that's like sometimes rushed by bringing firewood in. It's like, nah, I was gonna bring the firewood in for the last time. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Speaking of thank you, one last thing that I wanted to mention is just this last part of Relax, Release, Lean Back that I kind of added on for myself and mentioned to you is, you know, just saying thank you or bringing appreciation to whatever the experience is. I wonder if folks have found that helpful at all. Yeah. So a few, a smattering of agreement. Other folks. Has anyone found it unhelpful? Like, has anyone noticed that adding the thank you detracts from the letting go or the experience? Or is it more just something you haven't done? Okay, well, I'm not seeing anyone say that it detracted from the experience. Okay. Anyone else want to share anything about the home practice? Mark?
I was just going to say, for me, gratitude is a good check-in. Like if I'm actually doing, I don't want to say right, but if it's kind of working and it's changing how I am, then the gratitude always comes from a good place. And it's a good check-in. But if I'm just doing it like because it's part of the ritual, then, well, either way, it's a good way to know whether I'm actually leaning back and relaxing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because if there's some part of you that's going like, oh, this thank you part, I don't really like it,
Right.
then that in itself is an interesting thing to explore, and maybe there's resistance there, right? To relax through.
Right.
Yeah.
And on it goes. Yeah.
And on it goes. Yes, indeed. So those are all the points I wanted to make. Anybody else have anything to share about the home practice? Any questions about the practice, basically, right? About the practice. Okay. So why don't we move on then to chapter 18, the secret of the middle way. So this is the chapter on the Tao. So I really love this perspective on this practice. So much so that I went out and bought the Tao Te Ching recently. And it's actually it's really nice to read. So this idea that there's this, you know, this analogy of a pendulum, right? And that the pendulum can swing to extremes, right? Like, you know, wanting to spend all your time with your partner, wanting to spend almost no time with your partner, or wanting, or like always wanting to be with someone, always wanting to be alone. You know, being way too hot, being way too cold. But the idea is that when you're at an extreme, you have to use a lot of energy. And what often happens is the pendulum goes all the way one side, and then it has to go kind of all the way back. And it's only when it comes to rest in the middle that it can actually stay there without any energy. And that place in the middle where you're in balance, not too hot, not too cold, you know, not too much activity, not too little activity, not stuffing yourself and not starving yourself. That place is a place of peace and of energy, because you don't have to use much energy to be there. And this idea that if you want the pendulum to stop swinging, so that this is kind of similar to the, you know, the ripples in the lake. if you want the pendulum to stop swinging, then leave it alone, right? And eventually it'll just come to rest. I'll just share this. This made me think of how does the Tao fit in with this practice of learning to let go of, relax, release, lean back, if you will. And so I kind of created this diagram that I call the Tao of letting go. And the idea here is that on the one end of the pendulum is clinging. It's like there's a pleasant experience that you're attached to and you don't want to let go of, right? And that's resistance. The resistance is clinging. And then at the other end is defending, where there's some experience you don't like and you're trying to push it away. And in the middle, and you have to expend a lot of energy to resist, right? Either to defend or to cling. And in the middle is where you're not resisting at all. You're just allowing, relaxing, and there's nothing pushing you one way or another because it's all just going through you. And this idea that you can feel for in the chapter, Mickey talks about feeling for the edges. And to me, that's akin to feeling for resistance. Feeling this, either this defending, this pushing away, or feeling this attachment, this holding on, this grasping, clinging. And so feeling for the center is feeling for that place where there's no resistance. But really, what I think in terms of practice, it's noticing resistance, right? It's easier to notice resistance than maybe you can notice the absence of resistance, I guess. You can notice that sense of just being okay with whatever's there, relaxing, that sense of maybe peace. So that's kind of my take on this. And he talks about this idea that, it's a dynamic balance. It's kind of like sailing. You're constantly adjusting the sail, adjusting the rudder. And, whenever you notice that the wind is shifted, whenever you notice that there's resistance, then you adjust, you drop the resistance. And so that's how you stay in balance. And it's my experience that in practicing relax, release, lean back, what happens is you notice this disturbance, you notice there's resistance, and you practice relax, release, or I practice relax, release, lean back. And then often there's a secondary thing that happens, right? Maybe it's like wanting the wanting the discomfort to go away. Wondering, am I doing it right? Trying to make relaxation happen. Trying to make this happen or that happen. Wanting the samskara to release. And so there's this, and the mind comes in with sort of different lines of attack. The personal mind comes in with different lines of attack of different, thinks of different things that you have to deal with, that you have to solve this problem or that. And so, it's this constant tacking, if you will, or adjusting, because the source of the resistance is shifting around. So to me, this chapter really, I think it does a great job describing the art of practice, right? This idea that there's this dynamic balance, that experience is always moving. And so we want to move with it. We want to and it's just this relaxing, right? Whenever you notice the pendulum getting pulled, let go, gets pulled, let go, right? The longer, until you let go, the pendulum just keeps getting pulled out and out. So, I don't think it's a perfect analogy with the pendulum, but I think it's really helpful. This idea of that the focus is on balance, right? And balance means non-resistance. And I like this, and he says, you're never going to wake up, see what to do, and go do it. You are blind. You never see where the Tao is going. You can only be there with it, feel for the edges, and don't go to the edges, right? Because often when we have something that's going on outside or even inside, and we're wondering, what should I do about it? What should I do about it? What should I do about it? Should I go over here? Should I go over there? And, Mickey gives this very succinct view that says, you can never see where things are going, right? I mean, obviously we can assign probabilities, but you never know where something's going to go. And if you're asking what's going to make me happy if I make this choice or that choice, that's really hard to say, because there's so much that can happen. But if we just focus on the present moment and being in balance in the present moment, in other words, not resisting and flowing with the energy, that's the idea I think that Mickey's trying to get across here. Is just keep feeling for the resistance. Wherever you notice it, drop it. To the best of your ability, right? It takes grace as well. So that's my take on chapter 18, on the secrets of the middle way, secret of the middle way. Anyone have any questions? Linda, you're muted, I think.
Yeah. Oh, am I still muted?
Oh no, now you're good. Yeah.
Okay, so I was writing and I couldn't keep up with you.
Oh,
So you said you can never know which choice will make you happy, something along that line. And then you said something about being in the present. What was that whole sentence? Or what was the thought, not necessarily the sentence?
well, the thought is that you're never going to wake up, see what to do, and go do it, right? You're blind. In other words, you can't see the future, right? So you can't see where the Tao is going. You can only be with it, right? Which is saying you can only see what's going on in the present moment and try and find balance in the present moment.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Any Taoists here?
Well, I was just thinking, because I just listened to the talk that you suggested about decisions, and it seems to mesh completely with what is going on here, right? Because any decision you're agonizing over, it's one of those, you're out of balance. Do you want something or you don't want something? So, come back into balance before you do anything. That's the important thing, rather than making a decision.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the word I pick up on there is agonizing, right? Because agonizing suggests that there's, you're not just sort of evaluating, you're struggling, right? And it's that resistance, right? That sense that I have to get it right, which I experience a lot. Right? I do less so now, because it's so clear to me that the important thing isn't making the right decision. The important thing is enjoying the moment and not letting the decision, not tricking myself into thinking that if one way leads to happiness and one way leads to suffering. That's, the important thing is what's going on now, happiness or suffering, right? Because I don't know where they're taking me, but I know what I'm experiencing.
Mhm.
So many times there's such great relief when I'm agonizing over a decision, as you said, and then I realize, I can be happy either way. It doesn't matter. This is my personal mind just trying to drive me nuts again, right?
Yeah.
It's so deluded. We can cause ourselves so much more suffering trying to make a decision than the actual result of the decision could ever cause. Philip, yeah. Is that
So there was near the beginning of the chapter, he says, in other words, it's not efficient to oscillate around the path. To be efficient, you must center all of your energies on the path. I find that so important, that the swinging of the pendulum, there's so much energy goes into stabilizing the pendulum after it's swung one way and the other way. And so what I am finding in my life, I am finding that I'm having less disturbance than I used to have, like especially the small stuff.
Mhm.
I did have an experience this week which caused significant disturbance, and I was very comfortable just being with it, fear,
Mhm.
being with the fear, and not wanting it to be any other way. And I knew that it would pass, and it did. I mean, it just passed.
Mhm.
And but I find this not oscillating around the path very helpful for me, just to keep my focus on the middle way, both in my practice and in my living.
When you say oscillating, what does that look like in your life? Like, what does that look like in the moment?
For me, it was often lack of concentration. I'd fixed my mind on a given, whatever it is, right? And then I find myself weaving around that, finding other things to do. And my mind would just say, no, you should be doing this. Or what about your taxes? And what about the dishes in the sink? And, and sort of making me waver. And, I'm finding now that I can just, well, for me, it's about living a disciplined life.
Mhm.
And having a plan for every day and just sticking to the intention that I had.
Mhm.
And not letting my intentions get diverted by the silly personal mind at any rate.
Yeah.
I mean, things can happen. I'm flexible enough that things can happen and divert me. But at the same time, I need to know when not to answer the phone. And when, these kinds of things, these just simple little life skills, that can disrupt my day completely if I'm not focusing on if I'm allowing myself to oscillate around the path, I guess.
Yeah. And Mickey talks about this, the idea that whatever decision we make, not only is the personal mind going to question it, the heart is going to question it too. I mean, that's also, it comes from our samskaras, but we're always going to be questioning ourselves, and we're always going to be distracted and going over here and over there. So yeah.
What happens if the heart and mind are right?
I mean, what is right? I don't know. The thing is, they're going to be right half the time. If there is a right, they're going to be right half the time. But worrying about what's right is what you know, this is the point of that, you know, when he says you're never going to wake up, know what to do and go do it. You're blind, right? So, and this is Mickey's point, is the heart and the mind don't know, right? The personal mind. And you know, we're trying to, you know, to navigate through this minefield of our samskaras, to get them to line up get, you know, the external circumstances to line up exactly with what's gonna, you know, tiptoe through the tulips, as Mickey would say, and you know, and trigger, you know, make it through our samskaras so that joy can happen. But it's only going to be short-lived anyway. And what's more important is being able to release our samskaras so that we can be happy much more of the time, right? I mean obviously there's a world outside, and you know, there's things that could get you killed, and you know, and all sorts of stuff. But I mean, so it's not to say don't, you know, be careful. It's not to say just, you know, jump off a cliff and do whatever you want. But when I look at my life, it's the worrying about the effects of a decision, worrying about making the right choice, that causes way more suffering than, you know, the choices themselves. So yeah, getting back to what Philip was talking about with the oscillation, in my mind, what I think of more is just the fact that resistance sucks. Like it just uses so much energy for that doesn't get us anywhere. And I can feel that when I'm experiencing the resistance, you know. I do agree that, you know, we can, like, it's easy to get sidetracked. To me, that's a concentration practice, right? That's a mindfulness practice. Straight up mindfulness practice, which is also important. Yeah. Okay, should we move on from there? Or did anyone have any more comments on this? No? Philip, your hand's still up. Is that? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that was something new. Okay. So let's move on to the last chapter, the loving eyes of God. So, who enjoyed reading this chapter? Anyone? This is the feel-good chapter. The part that to me is a real strong practice point, is this idea of choosing to identify with the awareness, choosing to identify with either the higher self or the awareness, and not identify with the lower self or the personal mind. Because we can cultivate that intention, right? We can cultivate, we can say, this part of my experience, this is me. And this other part of the experience, not so much. And in Buddhism, they say don't identify with any of it. But when I first read Mickey's book, and then some fear came up, and identifying with my awareness was so effective at helping me disidentify with the fear. And it was like this light bulb went on. It was like, wow, I am not the fear. I'm the one who's aware of the fear. And that gave me such freedom from the fear. That's just my mom's phone. um, anyway, um, so you know, and this is a choice you can make, and you know, not that you have to choose to identify with, you know, he's saying identify with the spirit, if you will, or with the awareness, with the, you know, identify as high up the chain as you can get. And you'll naturally move towards that by identifying with it. So I do find that helpful. And he also talks, does that, anyone have any comments around that? Or, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. Well, I wasn't muted. Sorry about that. The one thing about like identifying with the higher self, or you know, sometimes like identifying with your better self, where is the point where it's false? You're presenting a false self.
My answer to that is it's all false. It's all skillful means. None of it is the absolute truth, right? None of it is the absolute truth. So it's what helps us to be more the person we want to be, what helps us to live more in love and joy and gratitude, and less in anger and fear and loneliness.
So,
Right.
so the noble me and the quivering mess of me are neither me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who me is, right? Like this, if I did, I'd be enlightened, I guess. You know, but I find that if I identify with the lower self, the results are awful, right? And we naturally identify with whatever is going on in the theater, right? And quite often, that voice in your head, it's the lower self, it's the fear, it's the desire, it's, you know, all this crap. And we act on it because we want to be true to ourselves, and we just believe that this is me, and if I want to get out of here, then I should get out of here, and if I have every right to be angry, then I should be angry. And that's the part that I want to not identify with, and not act on, and not water those seeds. That's the part that I want out. Right? And the way to get it out is not to push it out, it's to just let it do its thing, right? Do its thing inside, I mean. So, you know, identifying with the higher mind, identifying with the part of you that, you know, wants to be kind and loving and generous, you know, like that's not a bad thing at all, you know. But then you could also identify with the awareness itself, right? Or you could even identify with, you know, the cosmic consciousness, if you will. Now, I don't experience that so much. What Mickey's saying in the chapter is to identify with what he calls spirit, which would be, I think, kind of an amalgamation of the individual awareness and the cosmic awareness. But it's just having that, it's having that sense that all the stuff below that is not you. So it doesn't, what's important is not your conception of, you know, cosmic consciousness or awareness. What's important is that, is the not identifying with the lower stuff, right? And what allows you to do that? So, you know, like in the exercise today with the alien awareness, that's a technique to disidentify with everything going on in the body and mind. And that's really what Mickey is suggesting, is identify with something outside of the body and mind. And he says the only way to actually get there being, you know, spirit, ever was eternal conscious ecstasy, you know, this God state, if you will, or this, you know, this wonderful state, whatever words you want to use, is to let go of identifying with the body mind. And so that's why he's counseling, identify with the spirit, not with the body mind. It doesn't matter what the truth is, because the truth is unknowable. Maybe you've had an experience where you feel like the truth is whatever. If that's helpful, great, right? A big thing I've learned is that they're all stories. So choose to believe the stories that serve you. And whatever stories don't serve you, you know, just say silly story. Silly story, right? I'm not talking about facts, right? I'm not talking about 2 + 2 = 4, or it's going to rain tomorrow. I'm talking about these, you know, mystery of life kind of stories that say, like, you know, I'm just not meant to find love, you know, I'm just not lovable. I'm never going to be happy. I'm too old. I'm, you know, I'm just not cut out for that. These are the stories that are not serving us. You know, for me, one is I'm insecure. I have a whole story about how, which is a true story, that my mother lost 2 babies before me. She had a ton of fear when I was born. And my aunt, who's a psychologist, has explained how, you know, my mom was afraid to get attached to me, and this would cause all these, like, psychological, this very strong, deeply rooted, hard to change sense of insecurity. And I have really bought into this story that I'm just insecure. You know what? And I realize it's just a story. Why do I want to believe this? Right? I'm just reinforcing this sense of insecurity. Because your stories, you'll always find facts that tell you these stories are true. But they're just a story. You have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. You have no idea what's going to shift, what's going to release, you have no idea what's going to happen if you stop telling yourself the story. Right? And I'll just bring briefly this is from Tony Robbins, but this was really good. Really see the pain that this story causes. Because if you can associate this story that's not serving you with pain, and you can find an alternative story that feels true, not necessarily totally 100% true, but a story that is believable, that you can believe, that will take you to somewhere better, and really associate that with the pleasure that it's going to bring. Do it like in your body, really feel the pain of this story that's not serving you. Feel the pleasure of the story that does serve you, and reinforce those two, over and over again. The other thing he does is he says, take the story that doesn't serve you and interrupt the pattern, he says. So for example, he had us going, take your finger, go around in a circle 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then stick it up your nose and go, I'm insecure. I'm insecure. And then do that 10 times. I'm insecure. I'm insecure, and and then it's great, because then the next time I think to myself, oh, I'm insecure, it's like, that's stupid, right? Because like, I'm insecure. Anyway, that's not Mickey Singer, that's Tony Robbins. He calls it neuroassociative conditioning. But there you go. But the point is that these stories come from our personal mind, right? Don't identify with them. See through them. Realize they're just stories.
What did he call it? Neuroassociative?
Neuroassociative conditioning, which he originally learned something called neurolinguistic programming. And this is a derivative of neurolinguistic programming that he calls neuroassociative conditioning. Anyway. So let's get on with chapter 19. Okay. So, he says, if you want to go towards this higher state, the way to go there is not to reach for the higher state, but to let go of the lower states, right? You're kind of backing up into spirit, right? You're going, you're looking, this is the, like, why he calls the book The Untethered Soul, because the way to go up is not to look up and reach up. The way to go up is to cut the tethers, cut the things that are holding you down, right? And that's our samskaras. So it's letting go when our samskaras come up, letting go of the resistance and cutting those tethers. So the other thing he says that I think is really important is this idea that God, the only thing that God knows is ecstasy, and there's nothing you can do to ruin it. And he tells the story of the prodigal son, which I never knew that story actually until I read The Untethered Soul. But and I went to Hebrew school till grade 8. But anyway, so it's this idea that, the prodigal son goes out and blows all his money and, is a complete failure, and comes back home, and his father just loves him, and loves him even more than the other son. And he says, like, why does he love me? And it's because he missed him. He missed him, right? It has nothing to do with anything other than the one son, he was there the whole time, and the other one he missed. So when he came back, he showed him a lot of love. This idea that God is like the sun, right? You can hide from the sun your whole life, but when you step out, the sun shines on you just as much as it shines on anyone else, right? So whatever idea you have around regrets, or I'm not worthy, or any of that, doesn't matter. This higher state, cosmic consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, is available to all. And, like in Buddhism, this Buddha nature, right? We all have Buddha nature. We all have this inside of ourselves. And there's nothing you can do to change that. You know, at your deepest core is love, is joy, is ecstasy. And there's nothing you can do to change that. You can't spoil it. You can't remove it. That's what's there waiting to be uncovered. And so, you know, we've talked a lot about the idea of practice working, but what practice working is the uncovering, right? And that's not something that happens in this meditation or that, in this moment or that. That's something that happens over time, right? And that's how you judge your practice, not by what happened in this sit or that sit or this experience or that experience. You know, we all fall down over and over and over again. That is the nature of practice. We all get tricked over and over again. But just, you know, notice changes to your being over time. Okay. So any questions around that? Or comments?
That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is.
I remember the first time somebody said, "But you are perfect inside," and I had this like shocked outrage and thinking that no, they just don't know me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can identify with that. But again, it's, you know, what story serves you, right? I mean, this is what all the great sages say, right? This is what Jesus said and Buddha said, and, you know, Rumi, and I mean, just the great sages and saints from all the different religions and spiritual practices, they all say the same thing, right? I once, you know, I was at a retreat and the teacher there, you know, I said to him, I just don't know that I really, you know, have Buddha nature. I don't know that, or that I'm ever going to find it. And he said, you know, these great teachers through the ages all say that everyone has Buddha nature. Who are you to say that they're wrong? You know, so who do you want to believe, your personal mind or the great sages through the ages? Which one's more likely to be right? Which story serves you? It's your choice. So, and your personal mind may repeat the story over and over again, and that's not a problem, right? We just practice recognizing, oh, this is my personal mind, silly mind, going garbage, going off again, not identifying with it, not believing it. You know, stick your finger up your nose and say, "Wah," to whatever it's, you know, like. Learn to laugh at these stories, you know. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise now. So hopefully you brought your pens and paper. So the exercise is, where do you want to go from here? Right? And how will you stay motivated if you want to continue with this practice? So I would ask you to write down, I should put these in the chat. Let's see here. I'm just going to put them in the chat. So one is, what differences have you noticed from this practice? So just differences in your life. And what practices have been most helpful? And what words of encouragement have been most helpful? And what obstacles to practice have you faced? And how can you overcome them? Whoops. Overcome. So what differences have you noticed from this practice? What practices have been most helpful? What words of encouragement have been most helpful? And you can all see this in the chat. What obstacles to practice have you faced, and how can you overcome them, or how have you overcome them at times? So just take about 5 minutes to write whatever comes to mind in answer to these questions. And if you have any questions about these questions, feel free to speak up. Okay, it looks like a few people have finished and some are still writing, so just give it another minute and then go from there. And of course, you don't have to finish in class. You can continue after. So we're going to move into breakout groups next, and it's really the same topic, just talking about what have you noticed from the practice, what practices have been most helpful, words of encouragement, obstacles, how you overcome them. So here we go. So we'll have about 5 minutes in the breakout rooms.
Hello.
Well, this feels like conceptualization of kind of my life with all of this. Sometimes I words don't come to me real quickly. I can feel things pretty deeply, but so I can share some of it. Unless Sean, you want to go first?
Go for it.
Go for it. Okay. Okay. Well, I think overall, there's just been a deepening and a relaxing of my body system. I'm not as uptight. I'm much more aware of what I'm feeling as I'm feeling it. I'm more aware of feeling resistance than I am, and this may be because I just haven't gotten this hookup yet, but in terms of the thoughts. So I know that I have a lot more work to do with that in understanding clearly internally for myself. I'm much more, I just feel more centered and more, I don't get as uptight as I used to about small shit, and I don't worry quite as much as I used to. I think the obstacles that I have, I think the things that are really helpful is for me is when I don't feel like meditating and the words come up, that's when you should do it, and just go sit without having any agenda. That's making more internal sense to me, and it's it's just making a little bit more internal sense to me. Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but I want to give you a chance to, Sean, to talk to. Yeah.
Thanks. So I had, previous to this course, I had read The Untethered Soul and The Surrender Experiment, and it seemed, I thought it seemed pretty obvious and I knew it all, and I just needed to push to practice, and that was why I took this course. But in practicing it, I realized that I didn't understand the book at all as much as I thought I did, and this course really helped with that. And the things I've noticed are I'm able to notice the disturbances better, and release more. It's helped with other things, like I was very indecisive, and because most times I don't really have a preference, and this kind of helped me with that, and just picking away. It doesn't matter. And the words of encouragement are like, treat it like a game.
Yeah.
And just picking what doesn't matter in the end, just pick something.
Yeah.
And my friends have appreciated that about me. The practices that have been most helpful, besides the basic of relax and release, are the last thing I'll ever do. That's helped me become more present. And also treating it like a game. So like last time I'm driving somewhere, I don't really think that it's going to be my last time or that I'm going to die, but I treat it like a game, and it makes me more present to like take it all in.
Yeah.
And stuff that used to bother me, like people honking or people driving through a stop sign, didn't seem to bother me as much. So for some reason that really helped me become present, where other things haven't helped as much.
Yeah. I also like the if this was your last day or your last thing, that was really helpful for me too. This is really fun. I talked to my husband a lot about this one. And so we were talking back and forth. And then one of my kids, well, actually 2 of my kids came over for some basketball games. And so I said, you guys, think about this being the last time we're all together, or that this might be your last Gonzaga game you'll ever watch. And so we kind of laughed about that and talked about that. But that was really, it helped me open my heart. I think when I got a hold of this could actually be it. Last time I sit next to my husband watching Netflix, and it just kind of opened my heart and relaxed me. Ooh, I feel really warm and fuzzy right now inside, just kind of talking about it. So, but I think for me, the whole resistance thing is probably where my growth really needs to be, and understanding that more clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, me staying mindful and remembering to practice, and remembering to like lean back and like relax. And
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So it'd be great if folks could just popcorn out some of the stuff, the practices that have helped the most, or the words of encouragement, or whatever you've noticed.
I would like to share my words of encouragement, and they came out of your mouth, Lori. In my last session with Lori, he noticed something was happening for me, and he asked me to just relax into it. And so I went through a process, and then he asked me what happened. And I said, well, I said to myself 2 times, who notices this? And then I said, I don't have an answer. I don't know who notices this. And Lori said, yeah, me either. If we knew, we would be enlightened. And I was like, holy cow. I've been like kind of grasping, trying to figure this out. And there is no answer. So that was an incredibly helpful moment for me.
Thanks, Kelly. Yep.
I'll share one under practices that have been most helpful. For me, it's been asking, is this worth closing?
Yeah, that helps me a lot.
I really use being okay with not being okay. because my habit energy was to make it worse by being so not okay with, well, why is this? Why am I feeling like this? And I was like, it's okay, it's not forever.
Thanks, Anne.
Not identifying with my personal mind. That's been a really, really huge continued getting clearer and clearer and clearer about that, and to understand that it's not personal. It's just not personal. So that's been really a big one for me.
Treat it like a game. That's been big for me.
I think for me, I love what you guys have all said so far. It's been cool. But for me, the release, like the physical relax, has actually been really just a huge thing. And also, Mark and I were just talking about this, the actual, and physically seeing a physical different place where my thinking mind chatters and blabbers on, and actually feeling the other place in myself where it's not that, to feel that the thinking mind is separate. And I've been really well of the theory of that for a long time, but actually to feel it physically as a different place that I could just chatter away and it didn't actually need to affect my being was pretty cool. It just gave me a lot of freedom from identifying with that constant worrying, distracting, drifting thing. So that has been great.
I have been very comforted by the concept that I'm whole and complete as I am. And everything I need is already here. It's not out there. I don't need to go out there looking for it. I find that very comforting, that it's not a new discovery. It's kind of, freeing whatever is already here to come forward, to find a connection with the joys around me, because I already have those joys within me, and making those connections, moment by moment. I find that very comforting. I don't know whether that's what Buddha nature is, that wholesomeness inside me, which I'm discovering. And it seems like it's going to be a life journey. It doesn't sound like a destination to me. It seems like a process to go through life, I guess.
Anyone else?
I have one other thing that I'm really enjoying is the release of the blocked energy from the samskaras and when they come up. And I think the thank you part of it is very helpful for me. The gratitude for it, for the opportunity to release it.
Great. Well,
I'd just like to say that what has been different for me is that my life has become more peaceful.
Yeah, thanks, Philip. So we're pretty close to the end of this class, and so I just want to thank everyone for your presence, your participation, really putting yourself out there. It's been a really rewarding experience for me, thanks to you. So I'm very grateful for all of you. So I thought we could end it just with a bit of a closing practice, which is just to share 1 or 2 words to describe, 1 or 2 words that you associate with this, with this course or this experience of being together. So for me, I would say make connection and insight. So if it's okay with you, I'll just call out your names because it'll go a lot quicker that way. So I'll just call them out in the order that I see them here, which is not necessarily the order that you see. So I'll just start with the top left. So Sean, just 2 words. Yeah.
Life-changing.
Thanks, Sean. And Anne?
I'm thinking of 4, like grief and joy and fear and, whatever the opposite of that would be, courage. That seems to me that those have been that's more than 2 words.
Thank you, Anne. Linda? Linda Gustafson?
Directness and release.
Interesting. Mark?
I feel like a kind of fog is clearing, and the path is a little clearer to me, and that I can see it, and it's not so muddled by all these things anymore.
Great, thank you, Mark. Jill?
Clarity and expansion.
Great. Kelly?
I've written down 4, but I'm going to pick 2: openness and awareness.
Great. Jason?
I guess togetherness and seeking.
Great, thank you. Sarah Grace?
Commitment.
Sorry?
Sorry, I just have 1, commitment.
Oh, commitment. Okay. Great, thank you. I didn't hear that at first. I heard met. Wangui?
I would say spiritual growth.
Spiritual growth, yeah. Thank you. Linda?
You say acceptance and hopeful.
Acceptance and hopeful, yeah. Antonella?
Oh, I'm muted. A reinforcement of awareness and acceptance. But probably the most, special thing that I got out of here is the understanding of the fact that my heart can open and close because of some scars. And, and I have a choice, to keep it open, which is always going to be more positive and rewarding. So, thank you.
Thanks, Antonella. And Philip?
Gratitude and spiritual community and connection.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Those are all really good. Really, really good. And so in terms of going forward from here, so I do a monthly, some of you know this, but I do a monthly session for all the past participants. It's free and it's this Sunday at 4:30, the one for April. I generally do it on the first Sunday of the month. So 4:30 Eastern time. And I'll send you a link for that. I'll send you a calendar invite and I'll give you the link. So that's just an hour long, and we just do a meditation at the beginning, is about around 15 minutes, just like in class, and then we have basically 45 minutes of sharing. Usually we do a breakout for part of it, and then just open sharing and questions, and just an opportunity to connect and to, ask any questions you want. So because I really think it's, it's important to, to have some support as you continue to practice, should you choose to continue to practice this. So I want to offer that to you. What else? And if anybody wants to, I noted it, but if anybody wants to share their emails, please go ahead and do that. Or let me know, and I'll do that. I'll probably send out a feedback form. So if you could fill it out, that would be great. It's always helpful to see what, to help make the course better for as we go along. There's also the resources sheet. So I don't know how many of you have taken a look at the resource sheet. So there's a lot of I'll just share it here. Let me see here.
It's in, maybe.
So this is let's see here. So you all know about the talks, and there's some stuff on YouTube, the Untethered Soul Book Club. So I go to this sometimes, and they read it, for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then another hour of just sharing about the reading. And it's a really good group. So if you're interested, Jeff Warren. So these are all different online meditation groups that you can, that I've had some, well, most of them I go to on a regular or semi-regular basis. So there's lots available. These are some recorded meditations that you might be interested in from Awaken the World, because they've got a ton on their website. Tanya Mahar also has some on hers. C has a lot on theirs. Jeff has a lot on his Do Nothing project. Anyway, there's a lot there for you. So you can download that if you like. And yeah, the world is your oyster. So, I wish you all, hopefully I'll see you all again, but whether I do or not, I wish you much happiness and success on your path. So thank you very much. Oh, one other thing I should mention, I have a policy that if you want to take the course again, and like numerous people have taken the course again, it's just $50 to take it a second time. So just to encourage people to deepen their practice. And some people say, oh, well, when are you doing an advanced course? This is the advanced course. When you've mastered this, you're pretty advanced.
That's great.
Because I'm still working on it.
Can I ask, Jill, you took the course before, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
So what did you find the difference between the first time and the second time?
Well, a lot more deepening, just a lot more integration of some of the concepts, not all of the concepts. I'm still, practice are still really a work in progress, but just a deepening of it. And it's just such a joy to be around people who are like-minded. And that was just awesome. So I'd encourage everybody to take it a second time or third or fourth. It's just a lot to integrate.
Oh, thank you.
When is the next course, Laurie?
I haven't scheduled it yet.
How do we find out? Will you contact us?
I will, yes,
or-
you're, unless you tell me otherwise, I'll let you know about both the monthly Sangha and the upcoming courses. And maybe some words of encouragement from time to time, you never know.
You're going to be sorry you charge only $50 for the second time.
I'm not doing this for the money.
No.
Thank you for your time and
Thank you, Laurie.
and all the effort that goes into this. And thank you all for being here too.
Yeah.
It was really
Nice meeting
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really
Thanks,
good.
thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Laurie.
you, everyone.
Thanks,
you.
Laura. I
Thank you.
loved
It would
how
be
it
nice
worked.
to meet in person sometime.
Oh, nice to meet you all.
Meet you too.
Yeah, it was a
Peace
great
and
pleasure
love.
to be with everybody. Thank you so much.